You know how, like in a video game, you can just be playing along, right? Just jumping over obstacles, following the rules, and then you accidentally enter a sequence of buttons like a cheat code, and suddenly you can walk through walls.
Right, yeah, you just completely bypass the normal physics of the game. You
Yeah.
access this, like, developer mode that was just hidden there all along.
Exactly. It's totally thrilling to find that hidden layer. But consider what happens if reality itself has developer modes. Like imagine if there are actual strings of words or sounds or practices that just bypass the normal physics of our everyday existence.
Wow, yeah. I mean, the idea that the fabric of reality isn't as solid or, as rigidly defined as we experience it in our day-to-day lives.
Uh-huh.
It's a concept that forces you to question literally everything about how we perceive the world.
So, welcome to today's deep dive. We're looking at something that feels a lot like finding those cheat codes, but with stakes that are profoundly real.
Very real.
Yeah. We are exploring the mechanics and the, well, very hidden dangers of mystical incantations. And to do this, we're analyzing a really fascinating transcript from a YouTube video by a practitioner known as Osman, or the Blind Muslim Yogi.
Right, and Osman's background really frames this entire discussion for us. I mean, he is a master-level energy healer. He specializes in terminal illnesses and critical care recovery, and he's also an advanced yoga and meditation teacher.
Which is quite the resume.
It really is. He essentially operates at this crazy intersection of extreme physical healing and deep esoteric practice.
Yeah, and Osman presents this framework of reality that completely upends our normal physics. Whether you view his experiences as like literal truth or just a really intricate psychological metaphor, the mechanics he lays out for how alternative dimensions operate are just incredibly detailed.
Oh, absolutely.
So my goal today is to be the eager seeker. I want to know the mechanics, I want to know how the trick works.
And I'll step in as the grounded analytical lens here. Because as we unpack Osman's experiences, the recurring theme is just extreme caution. He stresses the absolute necessity of understanding the mechanics and the very real risks before you even consider experimenting with these boundaries.
Right. So let's jump in. We usually box mantras and mystical incantations into like Eastern philosophy, right? Specifically traditions from India. But Osman completely shatters that assumption right out of the gate.
He really does. He treats these practices as a global open source code.
Which is wild.
It is. He asserts that mystical incantations are not just a regional phenomenon at all. They're a worldwide universal reality. Like he points to European cultures, original American Indian traditions, and even practices from seances, witchcraft, and satanic rituals.
Wow.
Yeah, he says they all utilize specific recitations that carry tangible, interactive power.
The anthropological implications of that are just wild to me. It's like discovering entirely disconnected ancient cultures, separated by oceans and thousands of years, and they all independently invented the bow and arrow.
That's a really good way to put it.
Right. It makes you ask, does this imply that incantations aren't just cultural folklore, but an actual, like, operating system for reality that different groups of humans just happen to discover independently?
Exactly. And Osman emphasizes this cross-cultural reality to prove a point. He wants to show that tapping into alternative realities is a fundamental mechanism of human consciousness.
Okay, so it's baked into us.
Yeah, it's baked in. And because it is a universal mechanism, the rules and the dangers apply to everyone. The system of reality doesn't care about your cultural background or your belief system,
Yeah.
It only responds to the correct input.
Okay, but what actually constitutes this input? Like, if these universal mystical codes exist globally, how does a person even acquire them? If I find some ancient chant translated on a random blog post, does reading it execute the code?
Well, Osman details a very specific architecture of power transfer here. If you get an incantation from someone who actively practices it like a master, who actually possesses the power of it, and they teach it to you directly, the transmission is pure. It's guaranteed to work.
That makes sense. Direct from the source.
Right. But he argues that books themselves hold this power too. He says the author's knowledge and capability transfer directly into the printed form.
Okay, wait. Osman loses me a little bit here. I have to push back on this logic. How can mass-produced ink from a modern printing press hold spiritual energy?
I know, it sounds a bit out there at first.
Right, because a loud mechanical factory machine stamped that paper, not a mystic. Does the power transfer through, like, a PDF document downloaded to my phone? I mean, we are talking about data storage, not a magical artifact.
Okay, so think of how a vinyl record works in the physical world.
Yeah.
A record is just a flat piece of dead plastic, right? But the physical grooves stamped into that plastic capture the literal sound waves of a musician's live performance. You drop a needle on it, and suddenly the room fills with the exact acoustic energy of that moment in time.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, so Osman is suggesting that the intense mental focus and spiritual capacity of a mystic actually physically alters the medium they are writing on. They imprint their energetic frequency right onto the text.
Okay, so the original handwritten manuscript might be a high-fidelity master record, and the mass-market paperback is just like a low-quality compressed audio file.
That captures the dynamic perfectly, actually.
Mm.
Osman clarifies that learning from a book takes much longer and yields significantly less power than learning from a direct teacher, specifically because it is a diluted source.
That tracks with the analogy.
But his critical warning is that it still works. Engaging with these texts is an active energetic exchange. It is not a passive reading experience. You are interfacing with the residual energy left behind by the author.
Wow. Okay, so if these books are essentially loaded weapons of residual energy just, sitting in public libraries, what happens when a totally oblivious teenager checks one out just for fun?
Well, Osman actually lived that exact scenario.
Wait, really?
Yeah, he refers to this as opening Pandora's box. As a teenager, he was just intensely curious about the paranormal. He wanted definitive proof if ghosts were real.
I feel like a lot of teenagers go through that phase.
Totally. So he went to a physical library, tracked down a book detailing reports and incidents from London, and studied a series of evidence that ultimately convinced him the phenomena were no longer a coincidence.
So he saw the written evidence and wanted to experience it. But looking back, he harshly critiques his own teenage impulse, right? He says that simply asking, "Do ghosts exist?" shows a, quote, mundane ABC level of understanding.
Exactly. And that phrase highlights a massive underestimation of the environment.
How so?
It's like asking a microbiologist if germs are real, while completely ignoring the fact that there are literally billions of different bacteria, viruses, and fungi operating in entirely different complex ecosystems all around us.
Right. It's just such a basic question for such a complex reality.
Yeah. Treating the paranormal as a simple yes or no question completely ignores the layered dimensions, entities, and frequencies Osman is describing.
It's like a kid playing with a vintage chemistry set in the basement. It's all fun and games, mixing colorful liquids until you accidentally synthesize something highly explosive.
That's a great analogy.
We treat ancient technologies like parlor tricks. So what happens if I open that book, initiate one of these practices, realize I'm in way over my head, and just decide to quit halfway through?
Well, Osman states that you must research beforehand what happens if you stop an incantation practice, because he explicitly warns that stopping abruptly can result in negative effects, being cursed, or even meeting with tragic circumstances.
Just from stopping, wait, how does the physics of a curse work simply because I put a book back on the shelf?
So if you establish a connection to an alternative dimension through an incantation, you've essentially opened a valve. High-pressure energy is now flowing into your life.
Okay, a valve. I can picture that.
Osman mentions the seek and ye shall find principle.
Yeah.
If you knock on that door with enough intent, the universe answers. You initiate a reciprocal energetic link, like a contract.
But if I get terrified by what comes through that valve and just run away?
The valve is still open.
Oh.
Yeah. Walking away without formally closing that connection doesn't stop the high-pressure energy. It just removes your ability to direct it. That energy just floods your life uncontrolled.
That sounds terrifying.
It is. Breaking your end of the contract without the proper protocol leaves you exposed to raw, unguided forces, and that's what manifests as those negative effects or tragic circumstances he warns about.
Wow. So the lesson seems fairly straightforward. Don't mess with ancient mystical texts unless you are fully prepared to manage a high-pressure energy valve.
Pretty much.
But the source material throws a massive curveball here that genuinely threw me for a loop. You don't even have to be actively looking for ghosts or chanting incantations to open these valves.
Right. This is where it gets really interesting.
You can stumble into these alternative realms completely by accident while simply trying to improve your own wellness.
Yes. This centers on his revelations regarding yoga sciences. Osman warns that advancing in these practices has an unintended, automatic side effect.
Even if you're not trying to do anything mystical.
Exactly. Even if you have zero desire to delve into the spirit world or interact with alternative dimensions, simply increasing your capacity as a living entity will open up these dimensions by default. You automatically gain the capacity to discern higher frequencies.
Okay, let's say I start doing advanced yoga purely because, I sit at a desk all day. I just want to touch my toes, improve my breathing, and lower my work stress. I have absolutely no interest in alternative
Hmm.
dimensions. Osman is saying I might automatically start perceiving higher frequency entities. It's like deciding to upgrade your television to a 4K resolution just so the Sunday football games look sharper.
And suddenly you're getting weird channels.
Yes, only to realize the new TV is picking up hidden, bizarre, alien channels that you literally can't turn off.
Your television analogy perfectly highlights the biological mechanism he is describing here. In the modern West, we treat yoga and meditation as purely physical exercises, right? Or just basic stress relief tools.
Yeah, exactly.
But Osman analyzes spiritual progression as an irreversible expansion of awareness. When you engage in these practices deeply, you literally change your nervous system's capacity to process information.
Wait, why is it irreversible?
Well, our mundane reality is heavily filtered. Your brain naturally blocks out an enormous amount of sensory data just so you can function.
Like tuning out background noise at a restaurant.
Exactly. It filters the noise so you can drive a car, buy groceries, and hold a conversation without being neurologically overwhelmed. Advanced energy work strips away those filters. Higher awareness means fewer filters.
Ah, so you are upgrading the biological antenna.
You are. And by default, you expose yourself to raw, higher frequencies. You didn't ask to see the hidden channels, but the signal comes through regardless of your intent, purely because your biological hardware is now capable of receiving it.
Okay, but if I accidentally upgrade my hardware and suddenly all these psychological filters drop, how do I process a completely unfiltered reality without ending up in a psych ward?
That is the big question.
Right. Because the sheer inevitability of perceiving these frequencies once you progress makes this basically a question of survival.
And Osman is completely uncompromising on this point. He notes that once you start perceiving these alternative realities or hearing voices, you have to test them. But more importantly, you must connect with a qualified, advanced mentor.
So it's not optional.
Not at all. It is not a suggestion. It is mandatory for maintaining your sanity and keeping your grasp on reality.
It makes me think of deep sea diving, honestly. Like stepping off the ledge into the dark, crushing waters of alternative dimensions requires a tether.
That's a great image.
That qualified mentor is your oxygen line to the surface. Without them, you just become disoriented, lose track of which way is up, and basically float off into the abyss.
Exactly. The human mind requires an architecture to process the inexplicable. This is exactly why Osman pleads for deep research over blind experimentation.
It's just too dangerous otherwise.
A mentor provides the psychological and spiritual scaffolding needed to house these new experiences. They literally teach you how to categorize the madness.
Because at the end of the day, you still have to go to work on Monday and function in society.
Right. When you suddenly perceive multiple realities, your mundane understanding of normal completely shatters. A mentor who has already survived that shattering helps you build a new normal.
They show you the ropes.
They teach you how to ground yourself so you can live an everyday life while simultaneously processing these higher frequencies. Without that architecture, the mind simply collapses under the weight of the unfiltered data, which often mimics severe psychological breakdowns.
Wow. We've covered a profound amount of ground today. I mean, we started with the realization that mystical incantations are this open source, universal code, like a set of commands tapping into the mechanics of consciousness itself.
Yes, and we explored how the power of those commands transfers through the physical medium of books, literally leaving residual energetic traps waiting in public libraries.
Which is terrifying. And then we unpack the physics of opening Pandora's box, detailing the extreme danger of leaving those high-pressure energy valves open.
Right, the severe consequences of breaking an energetic contract simply because you got scared and didn't know how to close it.
But I think the most striking takeaway for me is this idea of the default awakening. The reality that simply upgrading your human capacity through yoga can automatically drop your psychological filters and tune you into entities you never even asked for.
Which is why a mentor becomes an absolute necessity for survival. It really demands immense respect for the unseen mechanisms of our reality. It challenges the entire way we view self-improvement.
It really does. So take a moment to reflect on how casually our modern society treats these practices. I mean, we print sacred mantras on coffee mugs and tote bags.
Really do.
We do yoga in the park while drinking iced lattes just to stretch our hamstrings.
You can go.
Contrast that consumer-level approach with Osman's urgent warnings about playing with ancient systems of power without reading the warning labels.
We're engaging with powerful technologies of consciousness, but we're treating them as lifestyle accessories.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which leaves me with a final thought I want you to mull over today. If advancing in our human capacity naturally and irreversibly opens us up to higher frequencies by default, could it explain something else entirely?
Ooh, that's an interesting question.
We are currently living through an epidemic of people feeling chronically overwhelmed, deeply anxious, or completely detached from reality. What if a portion of that anxiety isn't just modern stress, screen time, or burnout?
What if it's something more?
Right. What if it is actually an uncontrolled, unmentored exposure to these higher frequencies that people don't even realize they've accidentally tapped into? Maybe millions of people have accidentally stumbled upon the cheat codes to reality, and they are terrified because they have absolutely no idea how to turn developer mode off.